Hey everybody, and welcome to this edition of the Politically Incorrect Podcast. I'm Jim Williams, host, with my co-host Dan Maduri. Danny, trouble about a week ago in El Paso and, of course, in Dayton, Ohio. Not to be confused with Toledo. A lot of people have shot. Once again, we have a active shooter who killed a lot of people in, this is 22 now, I guess, in El Paso and 8 in Dayton. Yet nobody's rushing back to D.C. to make any legislative moves on it at this point in time. Your thoughts?
It just makes sense, it just fits. It goes back to this very simple idea that Washington, D.C., they're just not capable of tackling and really fixing major systemic problems within the country at large. And I think that, you're starting to see a lot of people, of course, the Democrats are, foaming at the mouth when it comes to some sort of gun control or gun safety. Now I think you're seeing the moderates make the turn. It's just really the hardcore right-wing base that just doesn't want to give it up and always starts talking about the Second Amendment. And it just, you kind of look at it, and it's really kind of surreal, Jim. I mean, it really is. I mean, the NRA has been greatly weakened. It's not getting the funding that it used to. People are, not joining the NRA the way they once did. So it really feels like it's at that tipping point moment, but it just seems like the political class, for whatever reason, just not interested to make any type of main changes. And it's just one of those things that's popular to talk about during the campaign season, but yet ultimately nothing's going to happen.
That would be true. And the interesting part to me is you now have Republican congressmen who are saying, you know what, I'm not so certain that we need semi-automatic rifles with large magazines to be sold, because frankly they can't be used for hunting. So the only thing that you can use them for theoretically is self-defense at home or target practice. Well, if your goal is to go out and shred a target to bits, okay, interesting. But for again, I can't imagine what any of the AK style semi-automatic rifles with these major magazines
I don't know why they
could do that a 30-30 couldn't
or
do.
The ammo. Yeah, I don't think if they sell those types of things and the ammo. I think one of the most impactful political cartoons that I ever saw written up was basically this guy drawing on a chalkboard, and he split the chalkboard in half, and on the left it says tyrannical governments defeated and prevented, and it's got a big 0 on it, and it said innocent lives lost to mass shootings. And just the numbers are just incalculable because they're just racking up. And I think we kind of ventured into this weird arena where it almost seems like people are more interested in labeling who these shooters are and what these shooters represent, white supremacists, terror suspects, that they're not actually talking about, the meat and bones of the issue and how to go after the issue of, maybe preemptive striking, the red flag law, the idea of mental illness and how it just runs crazy across the spectrum here in this country. And these people aren't getting qualified help. The fact that people just, when they see something, they don't say anything. When they read something, they don't say anything. And it's just like this, we've got our heads down, we've got them in the sand, and we're just really fascinated with the 140 character burn on Twitter and talking about how, white people who are terrorists are the greatest threat to American lives today, not immigrants, and trying to somehow make this a illegal immigrant versus a white supremacist argument, instead of saying, hey, look, we've got a problem, regardless of race, creed. The ideas are out there. They're dangerous. These people are well armed. They are these little fake toy soldiers. They like to play dress up. Why aren't they getting flagged the moment they start buying this type of material? I mean, you look at the Dayton shooter, for example. I mean, here's a guy in full tactical gear. Here's a guy with, an assault rifle. Here's a guy with, extended magazines. How do you go about making purchases like that and not automatically the FBI knocking on your door? I mean, you can literally tweet something out and the FBI will knock on your door, or the Secret Service will knock on your door.
Right.
How are we monitoring social media to that degree where a UFC fighter back in, I think it was like 2010 or 11, somebody said, who would you like to fight in the octagon? And he put in there Barack Obama, LOL. Literally the next day, the Secret Service was knocking on this guy's door. How is that possible? Yet when these purchases are made, and they most likely are being made on credit card or whatever, and it's going to be checked through some database, how's that not getting flagged? How are people not knocking on these people's door immediately after they purchase Kevlar, after they purchase an assault rifle, after they purchase an extended magazine, after they get a bump stock? I mean, it's insane. The whole thing's insane.
Well, at the very least, okay, why wouldn't you say, all right, fine, you want to buy a handgun, go through the process, that's cool. Want to buy a hunting rifle, fine, go through the process, that's cool. You want to buy anything above that falls into the AR category, okay? Why would then you not say, okay, here's the deal. You have to be licensed to do that, meaning you have to specifically have a certain amount of hours that you've done it. And then, you have a tracking service that you, as you say, why does someone buy the vest, buys all of this other stuff, and people are more than happy to sell it to them, but they do it without any repercussion. Okay, the point of purchase, that's not, that's like, oh well, I didn't do anything, I just sold it to them. Well, yeah, you did, but you didn't mention the fact that you sold, a 22-year-old kid an AR semi-automatic rifle, be it an AR-15 or whatever. As you say, extended magazines, all of this stuff. Did it not occur to you, you might want to, say that this is not necessarily, something, mark it down and say, okay, here's something that I'm going to alert, or make certain that when you do it, you have to register that gun through your local police force. Police
I think it's, I would actually take it a step further, and what you're saying there too. I was actually thinking about, I know we live in a capitalist marketplace, but what if we did follow Chris Rock's advice, where he talked about he'd make every single bullet worth $5,000, and he said there'd be no more innocent bystanders. He's like, you see somebody who got hit like 5 times, and you say he must have did something. They put $25,000 worth of bullets in them. So what if we just priced people out so they could not afford it? Number one. The other one would be, if we are going to start labeling them as terrorists, then I'm fine with this. And I had an idea a long time ago. Okay. Just a basic idea of, if a person is a terrorist, is in this country and commits a terror act, right? And that person, whether they're getting trained to fly airplanes into the World Trade Center down at down in the Tampa Bay region, whether they're hanging out in Temple Terrace and then they go and they buy a U-Haul truck and go mow a bunch of people down on a bike lane in New York. I think that every person related to that individual has to pay a consequence. They're gone. Whether they're leaving the country, whether it's major fines, whether it's taking back whatever home or whatever dwelling they live in, because I don't think people get that radicalized without a person in their family, especially immediate family or even immediate friends, realizing and seeing a transition. So often what we see is, well, yeah, I mean, he used to say crazy things, but I never thought he was actually going to do it. I never thought he was actually, I just never said anything. And, I thought it was weird that he bought 20 rifles, but I never said anything. So what if we made it a step further? Not only is the point of purchase, as you mentioned, is held responsible for it, but then if they're living at home, which so often these guys are, if they're living at home, their parents then, they are charged with allowing them to amass this arsenal and not being good, responsible parental units. What if the people who were friends with them, what if they then were fined? And because they didn't say anything either. So what if we created kind of a dominoes effect that you do a 6 degree of separation of whoever this person is, and then all of a sudden those people who surround them immediately, they're all getting hit with something too. And then therefore people would be responsible, and therefore they wouldn't want to sit there and be like, well, now I got a $15,000 fine I got to pay. I can't do that. So yeah, I better pick up the phone and call the local FBI branch and say, my kid just brought home his 7th AR-15 with an extended magazine. They just bought 800 rounds of ammunition. You know what? You might want to come check this out.
Well, there's that. The other part of the equation is that, we've got a bunch of trial lawyers around who do wonderful work at, you can't watch a television program without seeing someone saying, if you have problems with asbestos, if you have problems with, malpractice insurance, whatever, they file class action suit. Okay. Well, if the gun was manufactured by X and it was sold by Y, then why not say, okay, you know what? We're going to go after the gun manufacturers. We're going to go after the people who sell the guns. We're going to go after the people who manufacture the extended magazines, and we're going to basically sue them. And look, if you've got
the private sector,
right?
You saw the private sector try to do that a little bit, where Citibank stopped underwriting gun-related businesses, manufacturing, selling, those types of things. So they stopped underwriting. So you see that happening, where more and more banks are saying, "No, we're not giving you a loan. Are you out of your mind? Are you crazy? Are you out of your mind?" So you do see that happening to a certain degree. But it's just gotten so crazy. And it's absolutely right, and I hate that you're seeing it kind of it's getting lumped in with like illegal immigrants of like, I am not afraid of the brown family that lives across the street, but I am terrified of the white kid who's a recluse and doesn't really talk to anybody and plays first shooter video games all day. And it's like I hate that that's what it's becoming, and that's the conversation, because that's one, it's not productive. Two, I find them to be separate issues. And three, it's like you're never going to solve either of those issues when you just put them all together and say, look at all of this. I mean, it clearly has reached a fever pitch. Clearly, D.C. just does not care. I mean, you literally see people who are so insane. I mean, I don't know if you saw this or not, Jim, but did you hear about this Missouri man, the 20-year-old Dmitry Andreychenko, who literally put on Kevlar, got his AR-15 and in military style clothing, and walked into a Missouri Walmart because he was angry that he couldn't buy firearms there anymore, couldn't buy rifles there anymore, so he did like a protest. I mean, what? Why would anybody do that? I mean, he's lucky he didn't get shot in the head, for heaven's sakes. I mean, thank God an off-duty firefighter ended up holding him at gunpoint until the police arrested him. But it's like, aren't you kind of done with the numbskulls now? Like, I'm done with the stunts. I'm done with the pranks. I'm done with like this whole thing that social media has created here in this country, where everyone's their own little Truman show. It's like enough is enough with this already. I mean, that guy, frankly, I mean, if he wasn't shot, I mean, maybe that's a bridge too far. I thought that would have been a great conclusion for this stunt and this incident. Just shoot the guy and move on, because clearly you're an idiot, and the collective IQ of the country, specifically Missouri, is going to rise with him no longer being around. But I mean, he should go to prison 15, 25 years. Just like, we're not dealing with this anymore. I mean, how is that any different than yelling fire in a crowded theater? I mean, how is that any different than that? I mean, they pulled a fire alarm. The scene was chaotic. People were being trampled. And this guy was just walking around recording himself with his phone saying, see, all these people overreacting. It's just like, man, forget this guy. Lock him up for 20 years. And then we'll see him when he's 40 and see if the system has conditioned him differently.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy. And tell you what, we're going to step aside for a moment. We'll be right back, and we're going to talk a little bit more about some decisions that could be made by Congress and some ways you can get around this. But we will be back right after this. Hey, everybody, let me tell you about my friends at Warby Parker. Now, they were founded with a rebellious spirit and a lofty goal to create boutique quality eyewear at a revolutionary price. It was a collaborative effort between four close friends. Warby Parker was conceived as an alternative to overpriced and bland eyewear that's available out there today. Now, prescription eyewear shouldn't cost you more than a plane ticket or a brand new iPhone. By circumventing traditional channels and engaging with customers directly through their website and the retail stores, Warby Parker has been able to provide high-quality, good-looking prescription eyewear at a fraction of the price. Now, Warby Parker's aesthetic is vintage-inspired with contemporary twist. Every pair is custom fit with anti-reflective polycarbonate prescription lenses. Available exclusively through the Warby Parker website and retail stores, glasses start at $95, including prescription lenses. And those lenses, by the way, include anti-glare and anti-scratch coating. Now, if you need blue light filtering for those lenses, they are also available at Warby Parker. Now, I've personal experience. Here's what happened, okay? I needed a new pair of glasses. So I went to Warby Parker's website. Now, I got to tell you, there is a tremendous amount of fantastic information about all kinds of glasses there. Whether you're a man, a woman, if you want sunglasses, it's all there. So you're at the website, and they also have a short test. Now, the short test gives you an opportunity to see what style of glasses looks best on your face by simply taking a short test. Doesn't take more than 5 minutes, okay? Once I did that, I then found out about the game changer, folks. The game changer is this. It's a free home try-on program. You order 5 pairs of glasses. You try them for 5 days. There's no obligation to buy anything. It ships to your house for free. And inside the box is included a prepaid return shipping label so you can send those 5 glasses back after you've given them a try. So after I took my little test, I decided, okay, I'm going to go and find 5 glasses, frames that I think would look good. And let's see what happens. So I went on. Now, like some websites, as I said before, they can be a nightmare. That is not the case with Warby Parker. The website, as I said before, tons of information, but very user-friendly and true to the style. So you know how you buy something on a website and it doesn't look anything when you get it like what you thought you purchased on the website. That is, again, not the case with Warby Parker. I went through and picked 5 frames that I thought would look good on my face. When the box showed up, I opened the box up and all 5 of the pairs of glasses looked exactly as they did on the website. So that was cool. Now, rather than, when you're out looking at glasses in some of these stores, there's just walls and walls and walls and walls and walls of different frames, and it's overwhelming. And you pick something, you put them on, you give them to them, and you buy it. And you realize it later, it's okay, but it's not exactly what I wanted. But hey, that's the way it is. It's not the way it is. If you do what I'm telling you with Warby Parker and do like I did, and get those 5 pairs of glasses sent to your house, and you have 5 days to look at them, what happens is this. I started off with 5. I whittled it down to 3. I took the 3, I whittled it down to 1, and picked out the perfect frame for me. Now, I didn't do that by myself. I had help. Because I had that 5 days and those 5 different frames, I was able to get input from my family, my friends, my coworkers. I was able to wear them, around a little bit, to look at them, to be able to get a feel for what they were like. And obviously they didn't have my prescription in it, but I was able to look at them in the mirror and even try on what do they look like with a suit or with a polo shirt or something like that. You're actually able to look at them in different ways that you can never do when you're rushed out, at a mall setting. Okay. So that was number 1. Finally, I picked out, as I said, the ones that I felt were perfect for me. I went to the website. I went ahead and ordered the glasses. It was an easy process. I uploaded my prescription. Again, very simple. They also have a very cool camera, which allows you to take a picture, which then goes to them, which gives them the opportunity to perfectly fit these glasses to you. And then about a week later, bingo, the glasses show up. They are perfect. I have never in my life had a pair of glasses that looked better, that were more comfortable, or that I could see clearer from than these Warby Parker glasses. Absolutely 100% easy done. So here's what I want you to do, okay? I want you to take that home try-on program, order the 5 pairs of glasses, try them on for 5 days. Again, no obligation to buy. They ship free. There's a prepaid return shipping label, easy to do. Here's what I want you to do. Go to warbyparker.com/my last name Williams to order your free try-on kit today, all right? Again, that's Warby Parker, WarbyParker.com/WILLIAMS. Order your free home try on today. You'll be glad you did so. Just go to warbyparker.com/Williams. Try 5 pairs of glasses for 5 days. No obligation to buy. Shipping free. Prepaid return goes all the way back. Not a problem. You'll be glad you did. I guarantee you're going to find a pair of glasses that is going to be the best you've ever had. Okay? Try Warby Parker. Try it today. Thanks a lot for listening. Okay, welcome back to the Politically Incorrect Podcast. Jim Williams here with Dan Maduri. Daniel, one of the things that I've been pushing, and I've talked to a couple of legislators about it, because people are saying, well, you get to the point of banning assault weapons. Well, what is an assault weapon? So you get, each one of these different politicians begin to pontificate on what it is and isn't. I was wondering, to me, I would go out and I would get 2 former members of the United States military and 2 members of the either police or ATF, people who deal in these types of shootings and how best to stop them. Let them go over the list of guns and let them decide what is or is not an appropriate, firearm to be purchased in the United States. I did one time speak with a gentleman who was with the ATF. I happened to do some work in a building in Washington D.C. where they had a mock-up of an office and a mock-up of a school, and so they would do active shooting drills, right? In this mock-up, and I asked the head of the ATF office that was there, what happens when you get a first-time person in, and these are guys who sometimes have police backgrounds, sometimes have military backgrounds. If you go to work for the ATF, you got to be a pretty good marksman, right? He's told me that there's not one person he's ever had in that class that ever went through the first time without shooting at least 4 unarmed citizens who just happened, they couldn't make that fast decision to decide, what was an active shooter and who was this other person, because of all the wackiness that goes on, when people are, under siege like that. So I'm thinking if you could get those people to decide, okay, what's right, and then realize that this arming of teachers is not necessarily the best idea anybody's ever had, because if the ATF agents can't go in and go through an active shooting drill, and they've had years of weapons training, what are we doing here?
Yeah, and I think it's kind of interesting too, right? I mean, just think about it. Early on in President Trump's presidency, I think it was in the first 4 to 5 months, he dropped the MOAB, the mother of all bombs, which is 11 tons of TNT. He dropped it, I think, in the mountains of Afghanistan. And after that bomb dropped, 11 tons of TNT. There were 8 confirmed kills, and they ended up just saying, "Oh, we were just bunker busting and just wanted to destroy just tunnels of Al Qaeda or whatever." But I mean, 11 tons of TNT only kills 8 people, and think about everything logistically that went into dropping that bomb. Think about the Air Force, the movement, the pulling it out of storage, the technical, the flying it over there, then the drop. I mean, all of the weeks of planning, everything that went into it, the precision of the drop. Yet one crazy kid in the middle of Ohio or in Texas literally can kill more people than the MOAB bomb did in fact kill when Trump dropped it, literally in under a minute. In under a minute. I mean, think about that. So why are these weapons? My point is, if the MOAB is most likely classified as a weapon of mass destruction, why are these firearms not classified as a weapon of mass destruction? Why is it not? I mean,
I don't know.
This is what the Dayton shooter. literally cops opened fire on the guy in under 1 minute. I mean, you're talking about 45 seconds. You're talking about they were there. The guns were pulled. They didn't back down. They didn't pull a Scott Peterson, the coward cop from Parkland, and run away and hide. They were there. They pulled the gun. They opened fire. He still was able to injure 20 plus people and kill 8. I mean, it's just like the whole thing's insane,
including his sister.
Yeah.
So yeah, it is amazing, and you're right. I mean, think about the MOAB bomb, which is, for all intents and purposes, basically the closest thing we're going to ever use to a hopefully nuclear device, and that kills, as you say, 8 people in this one. And these young men are able to do far more damage in far less time, with far less far less armaments, but the armaments they have are totally amazing. It's there's an interesting thing. A federal judge in Boston dismissed a lawsuit that challenged Massachusetts' ban on assault weapons and large capacity magazines, saying the ruling released basically was too far of a reach to be covered by the Second Amendment. The judge's name was William Young. He said the assault weapons are military firearms. They're not protected by the constitutional right to bear arms. The regulation of the weapon is a matter of policy, not for the courts, he said. Other states, he says, speaking other than, of course, Massachusetts, are equally free to leave them unregulated and available to their law-abiding citizens. These policies are matters that are simply not constitutional at the moment. Americans are not afraid of, these types of guns. Raucous and robust debate about these matters. We can call it democracy, but he said, without question, these guns are not covered by the Second Amendment. Okay, and the Attorney General, who is a Republican in the state of Massachusetts, said that the ruling by the judge vindicated the rights of people of Massachusetts to protect themselves from these weapons of war. So, I know a lot of people are out there screaming about the Second Amendment, but poll after poll after poll, the most recent one, and this was prior to the shooting, said that over 70% of Americans agree that we should have a ban on assault weapons, a ban on large capacity magazines, and stronger background checks. When you break it down into Democrats, it's over 80%. But when you look at the GOP, it still almost touches 60%.
Yeah.
So basically, what we're talking about here, to be honest, ladies and gentlemen, is not the NRA, and their rank and file. It is the lobbyists, because it's the money that is going. And so this is really corporate. This is a corporate deal. Okay, this is not a rank and file NRA. This is not the people of the country are afraid you're going to take away their Second Amendment rights. That's the biggest bunch of bullshit you're going to hear. It ain't that this isn't true. It is the fact that.
So you mean when Marco Rubio?
Yeah, go ahead.
You mean when Florida Senator Marco Rubio sits there and says, we can't ban assault rifles because what are you going to do with the assault rifles that are already in circulation? They've got a shelf life of like 100 years, so there'll still be assault rifles out there. It's like, well, maybe in 2120, then all of a sudden they start dissipating. But so you mean to tell me that's not a logical response from Marco Rubio, the Sunshine Kid?
From Marco Rubio, that's about par for the course. But nobody ever accused him of being an intellectual giant.
That was.
It's like, great, wonderful. By that theory, we should all, almond milk is the great thing because it won't expire until 2022. So, what the hell? I mean, that's ludicrous. And again, that's corporate speak, meaning I'm getting so much money from these people. Gun manufacturers, ladies and gentlemen, Not that we're not going to slide away from those people who also sell the guns. So yeah, there's a lot of stuff going on there that people are just tired of, and it defies logic.
It does make you wonder, Jim, because they're at the root of it all, and at the core of it all, the one thing that affects America from, for lack of a better phrase, being great again, is big money in Washington. And that's really what it comes down to, isn't it? I mean, every major problem this country has probably most likely could get fixed if the money was not in D.C. anymore.
True, and it's really right side, left side. There's no, they both take money. They're both, equally culpable in this case. And really, it all boiled down to when the Supreme Court, ruled on Citizens United. I mean, Citizens United was the situation saying, basically, the elevator pitch on Citizens United was that, for all intents and purposes, they were pushing to get dark money out of politics, and the Supreme Court did not rule in favor of doing such things, and so they allowed it.
It's a freedom of speech issue, Jim. It's a freedom of speech issue.
Right. Yeah, it is. So let's take for a second, Stephen Ross, right? The owner of the Miami Dolphins, who's holding
glad you brought this
up. Stephen Ross is holding the thing in the Hamptons this weekend, which will net the president $10 million. And of course, he's getting some heat, from some Dolphin players, as well as people who are, basically saying they're not going to get involved with some of the companies that Ross is involved with. Right.
So that just is billionaire.
Right. So what happens is, let's say there's pressure put on that, and so the donor class decides, you know what, I'm not going to write you that check, but I can. And again, remember, ladies and gentlemen, there's a limit on how much money a certain person can raise for someone else, or a certain person can spend during. Okay, there is no limit on dark money. So let's say Stephen Ross says, you know what, come to the Hamptons, we'll have some fun, we'll raise a few dollars that nobody gets mad about, and or if Stephen Ross feels he's getting, I'm using Stephen Ross as an example. I'm not saying he specifically would do this in any way, shape, or form. But let's say he says, you know what, let's don't have the deal at the Hamptons, and I'll personally write you a check for $5 million. Well, he can do that by going through dark money. So it's going to go somewhere where it's going to be used. And that dark money, we never know, because they come up and, you'll see an ad on television paid for by, whatever organization, which is usually some shell group. And all of a sudden you try to find, where their offices are or any of that stuff. They just don't exist, because dark money is just that. It's money you cannot account for.
Yeah, and that's what I was going to say. I thought it was one kind of shocking that Stephen Ross would host such a public thing for the president, even though that he could just cut a check for however much he wants to, and just swap trade and bring in a bunch of different umbrella companies and write in the president's Super PAC, which would have been much more removed and would have insulated himself from all of this. But I think it's kind of comical. I mean, I really do. I mean, if the guy wants to support the president of the United States, I mean, should he be able to support the United States? I mean, does he have to follow and have this type of backlash? I mean, I think it's kind of ridiculous. These celebrities are like, I'm canceling my Equinox membership and I'm canceling my SoulCycle membership. It's like, first of all, I mean, only celebrities are holding Equinox memberships. It's like $300 a month to go to that gym. I mean, my gym that I go to about 3 times a week, 4 times a week, is $21 a month. So who's paying $300 a month to go to Equinox? I don't know who can afford that. And this is not middle America. And so you can say, I cancel my Equinox membership and I will never go back. It's like, yeah, so you and Joe Scarsborough aren't going to Equinox anymore. You're like the only 2 people. But the outrage from celebrity class, I think it's comical that their like trendy gym safe haven has been like totally upended. Also talking about from a NFL owner Dolphin standpoint, I mean, one, Robert Kraft literally is on the horn with Donald Trump like once every couple of weeks, and they're
right. Jerry Jones, right?
Yeah, Jerry Jones too. Woody Johnson, for heaven's sake, the owner of the Jets, he's the ambassador to the UK. So he's actually in the administration, even though it's just an ambassadorship. But he's actually in the administration. So this idea of like, oh, I cannot believe what a poor step, what a horrible move, and what a this and that, and what are Dolphin players going to think? And oh my God, are they going to boycott their owner? It's like, stop. I mean, other owners and other leagues are deeply, deeply involved with this presidency, in his politics, with his administration. I just don't know why Stephen Ross is the one that always gets punched in the mouth.
Well, let's go back and look, like we said, about the dark money aspect of this, right? At the end of the day, the most important part of this is that you can look, if it makes you feel good to cancel whatever subscription you have, be it a gym subscription, or you choose not to buy something at Chick-fil-A because of their relationship, or you don't support Robert Kraft or Jerry Jones or any number of people. Corporations at any point in time are going to contribute to both sides, whether it's Democrat or Republican. It just goes back to the root of what we said before. When Citizens United was knocked down, and the ability for people to hide money, then there's no real answer to that question, because there's no penalty that anybody's going to pay for this. Will the corporation suffer? Yes. Will the person will Stephen Ross suffer? No. His stock, maybe his $110 million worth of stock may be kicked back.
Yeah.
Maybe just 80 million, but it's not an appreciable thing. I understand and appreciate the fact that when one does that, they're doing it because they they feel, okay, consciously, I can't attack this person. I mean, I don't want to let this person benefit even a penny more by canceling my membership. Fine. If that makes you feel good, that'll do it. But at the end of the day, until we square the circle on the dark money, it's not going to change.
Yeah, I mean, the related company is worth something like, it's got like $50 billion in real estate holdings all over the country, and is responsible for the Hudson Yards project, which was the most expensive real estate project ever done in the history of this country, and it now features what's going to be soon to be known as a major landmark architectural achievement in the vessel, and soon that's going to be a major a point of interest for tourists and New Yorkers as it continues to gain steam and garner notice and get acclaim. So, I mean, Stephen Ross is going to be, just fine. But I do think it's interesting that, politics have become so toxic. And, of course, people have, like, this crazy outlet, which is social media, where they just continue to melt down on a regular basis. But it's become so toxic that a guy whose life has basically been pretty good business maneuvers, great philanthropist deeds, and building things that would be making cities proud and driving tourism, and that helps drive the local economy of those cities. And yet, somehow, some way, he decides to throw a fundraising party at his Hamptons posh mansion, and now he's forever been labeled something that he's probably not. I mean, he issued a statement saying, I agree with him on some things, I disagree with him on other things, but, it's politics. What do you want me to do about it? It just, also, to me, I think it is to a certain degree, it is just, I mean, I honest to God believe, like, once you get that billionaire status, I honest to God believe, like, there's, like, this little black book that just, like, makes its way to your residence, and then you have the contact of every other billionaire in the world, because it's such an exclusive club. It used to be such an exclusive club, because they only really hang out with each other. They all know each other. They all have pre-existing relationships with each other. They go to the same vacation places. They have the state dock at their yachts in the same areas. They have their private jets manufactured at the same hangars. They have the same types of country clubs. Their kids are all in extracurricular type of lessons. I mean, they know each other. Let's just put it that way. And so I think people, they don't realize how, one, an exclusive club it is, and two, just how these people are friends because it is such an exclusive club. I mean, once you get to that level of money, you're all using basically the same lawyers. You're fighting over the same real estate deals. Like, you're going to the same country clubs, like I mentioned. Like, you're going to know each other, and you're going to have a pre-existing relationship with each other because you're just in a different universe than everybody else.
Joe Manchin, the Democratic senator from West Virginia, Pat Toomey, Republican senator from Pennsylvania, back in 2013, authored a bill. It was basically on background checks, and it truly is the most benign possible thing that could be passed and considered as gun legislation. And basically, bottom line is that it was basically put together to limit the ability for people to buy guns through internet sales, gun shows, and require family members or friends of giving or selling guns to each other without alerting the local police department. So, to be able to, get that, I mean, that's pretty simple. I mean, we're talking about some very little stuff there. And McConnell's like, I'm not so sure this is such a good idea. We'll wait. We're not bringing the Senate back to play with this. And basically, the only thing that they're looking at is Manchin Toomey. And Manchin Toomey, as I said before, folks, that's it. It's really just saying, these are the three things we want to cut back on, and that's the internet sale of guns, the potential of the sale from private parties, or with regard to gun show loopholes. That's it. That's all they want to do is close those three things. They can't even get that done.
Yeah, they can't get it done. They won't get it done, and it goes back to what we talked about a little bit earlier, just about how the priorities of Congress just much different than the priorities of the country at large. I mean, whether it's guns, whether it's infrastructure, whether it's immigration, you just tell they're not in line with the majority of this country, and they're just going to do whatever they want to do, and then just try to whip up as much frenzy around the other party, when really you kind of look at it, they're all the problem. It's not one party, the other party, they're all the problem.
Well, I mean, we can look at how the NRA got a $5 or $6 million donation from the Russian government through, money laundering. I mean, again, that just gives you a clue. I don't know if you ever saw it, but there's I highly recommend. It's called The American Gentleman. It was an Eddie Murphy movie, and Eddie Murphy was basically it was shot in Miami. He played a small town hustler, right? I mean, nickel and dime, making cash off of one thing or another. But his real job was basically to work for a catering company. And one day he serves, he's part of the catering for a fundraiser. And James Garner played a congressman from the state of Florida, and he went to this soiree where he was serving, and he realized that, wait a minute, there's, this guy's making a fortune off of being a congressman. So it turns out that Eddie Murphy's name was the same as the congressman, and so James Garner dies of a heart attack early in the film, and so Murphy goes and runs for the seat, basically buying up all this guy's old, paraphernalia from the campaign he'd done in the past, and he gets elected without ever being seen. And so he shows up in Washington. He sits down and meets for his first meeting with his administrative aide. And so he says, I need some information on what, these bills. He goes, here's the deal. We can get money from both sides. If you're for it, I can get you money from this group. If you're against it, I can get you money from this group. And he's wait a minute. So he basically calls his entire crew up from Florida and says, guys, we've been in the wrong business. The real money is being a politician and taking deals, one way or the other. It doesn't matter. We can still make money. So is it a stretch on what goes on in DC? Yeah. Is it a big stretch? Probably not as big as, you might think. And it just goes to prove that when big money's there and until we get it out, there's just nothing we can do about this. Now, we can try, and I think that that's certainly worth something, and we can push pressure on Congress. But to be honest, Dan, I don't know about you, but I think that this really, the grassroots, like I said before, whether there's a lawsuit, a class action lawsuit where you're looking at billions of dollars, nothing really gets done until you hurt the pocketbook of the manufacturers, or you hurt the pocketbooks of those people who are involved in selling the firearms. Until that happens, we're not going to get anywhere here.
I absolutely agree.
So, ladies and gentlemen, if you want to do something out there, take it to the manufacturers. Take it to. Don't go to Walmart if they're selling it. Don't go to Cabela's or any of those other places where they sell guns that you feel they shouldn't be selling. So you can hurt them at the pocketbook, because don't look for Congress to do anything. It ain't gonna happen. I hate to be such a pessimist, but been there, done that. Read the book, saw the movie, bought the T-shirt. It ain't gonna happen. So anyway, let's take a break. Come back, and after these words, Daniel and I will give you some final thoughts.
Life is about making decisions. At BMW I, we decided it was time to reinvent the car from the ground up, making sure we were open for truly innovative ideas. We decided that the car we wanted must be electric, and it should be made of extremely light and super strong carbon fiber. And finally, we decided to make it more intelligent and added our promise of incomparable driving pleasure. We made all these decisions to offer you a choice. The all-electric BMW i3.
Okay, welcome back, everybody, to the Politically Incorrect Podcast. Now, if you have not yet been one of the over the 30,000 people who've had the good sense to sign up and subscribe, first of all, shame on you. Second of all, you can find us at iTunes because we're part of the Apple Podcast family. And since we do not discriminate, no, Daniel and I do not, you can find us at the Google Play Store because we're part of the Google Podcast family. You can find us on Spreaker, Stitcher, Spotify, as well as TuneIn, iHeartRadio, and YouTube, just to name a few. If for some reason you can't find us, and that's almost impossible, but let's just say you can't, go to your Google machine, type in the Politically Incorrect Podcast, and you can hit the favorite button or subscribe, and each week you'll get a brand new edition of the podcast sent to your tablet, to your phone, or to both. So please go out there and do that today. We would greatly appreciate it. So, Daniel, now that I've got everybody depressed, any thoughts on what you think might be, what we might learn from what we're seeing here in the past couple of weeks?
I think that what you're going to learn is that the more things change, the more they stay the same. It doesn't matter who you vote in. The process is fundamentally broken, and you're not going to be able to fix or change anything to this scale unless some major changes take place. So I think that people are looking at this, they're outraged, they're angered. I think it's getting muddied down into immigration, and it's becoming a deflection type of conversation. And now all of a sudden, you're finding out people are, hosting fundraisers for the president, so you got to cancel Equinox. It goes back to how people, they can't focus on anything to get it finished. They're just too busy jumping around from topic to topic, giving hot takes rather than trying to figure out solutions.
I do think that what happened in El Paso, what happened in Dayton, based on what we've had here in the past 4 years, people are growing weary. I think that they will continue to put pressure on, but at the end of the day, folks, the pressure comes from, can you get big money out of government? Because until that happens, you're going to get people who, you almost have to be at least a millionaire to run for Congress now. Lord knows, back in the day when people who wanted to run for the office, were just regular people who wanted to make a difference. So that time is becoming more and more extinct. So we need to get back to legislators who come here for a reason, as opposed to people who come here just to deflect. And I'm going to use Joe Scarborough's little moniker because I think it's fun and I don't really care. Moscow Mitch. Mitch McConnell, I think, is going to go down. I'm a political science major, so I've done a lot of research on this. He might just go down as the worst majority leader in modern history for how myopic he has been when it comes to handling, not allowing legislative bills to hit the floor. Dan, look, in the House, they have what they call the Hastert rule, right? And that's the majority of the majority. Now, if you're a sports fan, there are such things as, and it drives me nuts as a sports fan, the unwritten rules of baseball, all right? Meaning they're unwritten. So an unwritten rule of baseball is, good example, if, if a guy, if a pitcher hits one of your guys, and you think it was intentional, then, next time your pitcher's out there, he bonks somebody with the ball. It's an unwritten rule. Well, Hastert rule is unwritten, and the majority means that unless the majority of whatever party's in power believes that bill should be taken to the floor, it doesn't get to the floor, no matter how good, bad, or whatever it may be. Doesn't matter if it's bipartisan, doesn't matter what. Well, you've got the same situation with regard to Senate Leader Mitch McConnell, in so much as he literally controls what bill can and cannot be voted on by the Senate. So even, I back in the day, I know it's hard to believe, but back in the day, both the House and the Senate would vote on matters on a regular basis. Now, it would be an up or down vote, and sometimes legislation would pass and sometimes it wouldn't, but at least it would get an up and down vote. We're not even at that point anymore. Okay. So if you want to know how whacked out this whole system is, when you've got one man who literally can stop the entire process from moving simply because he doesn't seem to feel it's a wise thing to do from a political standpoint, that's when you've got serious problems. And there too is our problem. So anyway, it just baffles the mind that one person, up or down, let it go, put it out there. If the majority of the people in the Senate don't like it, fine. If they do like it, pass it. If it goes to the president and he vetoes it, that's the way it works. And that is the total illustration of gridlock in politics, when you can't even get a bill for an up and down vote. And that, again, that's a House, and it happens in the Senate as well. So drives you crazy. Look, I think the most important thing we can say, Dan, to everyone is have a good weekend. Enjoy the summer while it's still here, because school's going to be back in session, and is in session for some of you all. And next week we're going to be visited by a potential 2020 presidential candidate, and because we don't know which one it is at this point in time, because we're booking. There's 3 different people who will potentially be here. We're going to have at least 5 of them over the next 7 weeks. So get ready for us as we start talking to presidential candidates here starting next week on the Politically Incorrect podcast. For Daniel Maduri, I'm Jim Williams saying so long. And you can find us on social media. Danny, quickly give us your social media out there.
Just Dan Maduri right across the board.
Okay. And I am JW Media DC on Twitter and Jim Williams 200 on Instagram. And of course, if you want to write a question or you have comments, you can reach us at Jim Williams Media. That's jimwilliamsmedia@gmail.com. Okay, everybody? All right. Until next week, have a wonderful and safe weekend. We will see you on the other side.